The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Dom. A Snowmageddon Tuesday edition. How you doing, little buddy?
I'm good, Crute. Good to see you. Thank you, Nate, working the board, cutting the cuts. Appreciate you, man. And, of course, our fair audience. It's not really snowing. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's starting to barely stick. It's been rainy and dreary all day long.
You know, this happens often, especially to the women of Wisconsin. You get promised 8 inches and something less than that.
Yes, pretty. Way to dig deep, baby. Story of your life.
They're
I mean, what do you got? Like 2 or 3 inches
of snow, yes. Of accumulated snow.
Yes.
It's not very deep.
You be careful, man. It's that heavy slushy stuff. That's the heart attack.
I'm not
snow.
shoveling it. I'm not shoveling it. Come on.
Come on, man. You have sidewalks. You got to be a good neighbor, Crute. You got to push it out of the way.
Not only do I have a sidewalk, I have the crossing in front of my house. I have to clear that thing. You know, the handicap space. I feel like I got to take it all the way out into the roadway,
Right.
clear the space all the way in, you know, because I am a good neighbor, Dom. I live in the good neighbor city of Middleton. We're good neighbors there, especially mine. I got really good neighbors, Ken and Claudia. They take care of us.
Yeah,
But Dom,
they're gonna shovel for you today, Crute. They that good of neighbors?
you know, he would.
All right, that's a good neighbor.
Like tomorrow, I'm going to Des Moines, Iowa, and you know, if Ken felt like it was a new, fresh foot of snow, he'd be out there. He'd be, you know, with the snowblower. He's got the nice one, the Toro, the big boy.
Make a lap or
Not
two.
me.
Easy enough.
You know, all of the last couple of years, my wife got one of these plastic plug-in ones, snowblowers, and I'd watch her. Not a fan of winter. I'm just not a fan. Not a big fan. But today, on this big program, you'll become a fan. If you weren't already a raving fan of the Devil's Advocates, A, why not? And B, we're going to make you raving fans. Because, Dom, today, we got the weather. We've already checked that box, right? Snowmageddon. And we got the news. We got some breaking news out of the D.C. And it's funny to me, you know, tomorrow, bright and early, I'm getting on the road going to Des Moines, Iowa.
Wait, how bright and how early, Crute?
That depends. Yeah. That depends on what time my wife gets the snow shoveled.
Nice.
So, laughable in my own mind because I know who's going to be shoveling that snow. But I'll get up as early as time merits, and I'll get on the road for Des Moines, Iowa tomorrow because I have confirmed and now paid for my CNN credentials and a good Ethernet connection because we've learned this lesson on the road, Dom.
Yeah, we have.
You got to pay a little extra and get yourself some Ethernet because otherwise, you know, you go to these big venues, these national political sporting events, and you get overwhelmed. You know, your Verizon's not going to get her done. So we've got the good connection. And I'll be at Drake University, 4 to 6 p.m. I'll be doing the show with you, Dom. And, you know, really, really, the important part of what's going on will happen at the downtown Marriott Hotel lobby bar, probably starting at about 11 o'clock. When the spin room closes, the lobby bar fires up big time till they close her down. About 2 o'clock, they send everyone home. And that's when I'll go home, Dom, and then I'll get, you know, like 6 hours sleep. And then I'll get up in the morning and I'll drive back here and I'll tell you what I learned and maybe bring back some selfies of me and Newt Gingrich. I have a good feeling. Last time I was in Iowa, I had a close encounter with Newt Gingrich.
Oh, was that the Freedom Summit?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Crute, you keep threatening to make Governor Ron DeSantis cry. Have you pondered how that might happen?
I'm a little distressed because Ron DeSantis went back to Florida. He's not in Iowa. I mean, we're less than a week to the Iowa caucuses. He's not even campaigning in the state currently. Apparently, he went back to the state of Florida last night, went to Tallahassee. They are also in the midst of a winter storm there. So whatever you call a winter storm in the Panhandle, he had supporters in the chambers. They were cheering. And his inspiring speech, my understanding, his State of the State address to the state of Florida last night, his inspiring notion was, stay the course. Well, you're the course. And you ain't going to get elected president. I mean, that's becoming more and more obvious each and every day, right?
Well, it's just him and Nikki Haley on the stage tomorrow at the CNN presidential debate. Just the two of them, Crute. I mean, won't this be the first time that just those two will be on stage together without Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie? Of course, Donald Trump will not be there either.
Will that somehow change the fortunes of Ron DeSantis? I mean, really, really, Dom.
So are you calling it for Nikki right now? Is that it? Nikki's number two? I mean, how do you see this playing out?
I saw someone claiming that, and I haven't yet been on the ground. And when I say on the ground, you got to go to the diner. You got to talk to at least 20 people in the state, and you start getting a large enough sample size. Then I can assess. So by Monday of next week, Dom, and I'm dragging you to Dubuque, right? We're going to the caucuses. Dom, maybe by Monday night, before we sign off on the air, I'll make some prediction about what I feel like the momentum in Iowa is. But if Nikki Haley gets a little momentum in Iowa, it looks like she's performing much better in New Hampshire. And if there is going to be an alternative to Donald Trump, it's kind of now or never. It's now or never. And we have no idea what's going on the ground.
In single digits of Trump in New Hampshire?
In New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Depends on whose poll you look at.
I mean,
sure.
She's trending better.
And if you got the bump of a overperforming, let's say, second place in Iowa, and then you went and, let's say, beat Trump in New Hampshire, well, now it might be a whole new ballgame. But up until now, Dom, really every time the guy gets indicted, he gets more Republican support. I mean, if this guy gets charged again, he's not even going to have to go through the primary process. They're just going to anoint him the nominee now, which seems so counterintuitive, so oxymoronic to me. The more criminal our guy is, that must be how bad they want him out, because they keep finding all these crimes he commits, and they charge him. And that takes us to the news of the day, Tom. The claims of presidential immunity. And, we've got lots of sound. And I think we got to start with the former president, because unlike you, Dom, I didn't realize there was an audio coming out of the courtroom.
Yeah, this morning I was surprised as well.
I did not hear it in real time, but I've been doing my homework since then. I've reviewed much of the audio tape, and Nate's been working hard. We got sound to bring to the people of what it sounded like in this immunity hearing. And I'm going to throw some air quotes on there. Immunity, air quotes hearing, and 3-judge panel. And Dom, you were telling me the makeup of the panel. Couple of what?
I think a couple of Biden appointees and a Bush appointee.
W. Bush, I assume. But
Yes.
you never can tell with the judiciary. They are lifetime appointments. So it started, and Sauer was the attorney, and this guy's got kind of a raspy voice. It's going to be very distinctive. Sauer started on behalf of Trump's team. And then the judges, and I really like this, the judges really started hammering him right from the get-go, trying to make him clarify points. But I didn't know any of this in real time, Dom. As I'm enjoying my snow day, peeking out the window, wondering if my wife's going to get out there and start pushing some snow around, Well, I started watching the boob tube, and I watched a couple of things today. I watched Donald Trump, and then a little bit later, I watched the Pat McAfee show. And why, you might ask?
Why, Crute?
Well, because Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show to respond to Jimmy Kimmel's dialogue last night. Jimmy Kimmel lit his ass up like 7.5 minutes during the opening monologue, just taking pot shots at Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I mean, if someone implies that you'd be on a pedophile list and you're a comedian late night, I think he's got the right to respond as he did.
Well, news, sports, and weather, Don. Sometime during the happy hour, we're going to talk about the Jimmy Kimmel and the Aaron Rodgers response. First time I got to announce it to the audience, Dom. As Aaron Rodgers appeared on the Pat McAfee show, and Clay Matthews, who was a former Packer linebacker and is the co-host and was there, so it was those three, and there's a lot of other yahoos in the studio. But Rodgers did not comport himself well, did not make any new fans today. But as he welcomed this new audience, because apparently even on Good Morning America, they're like, hey, you got to watch the Pat McAfee today. So I did. And he welcomed the woke media.
Oh,
Apparently the woke media there to cancel his ass.
Oh, come on. You know what? When you start talking like that, man, I mean, total D-bag moves. What do you even mean by that? And I do want to throw this out, Crute. We mentioned it before. D.C. Circuit Court Judge Karen Henderson, appointee of President George H.W. Bush.
Well, see?
Yeah.
Didn't want to get that wrong, Tom. We'll come back. We'll bring you sound of the former president. He seemed quite less than impressive today outside the courtroom. Boisterous, but he wasn't even, we kind of see him crestfallen, his shoulders slumpy. And he stood there in his sport coat, wasn't even hiding his belly. It kind of split apart. And another guy, like three of them were standing there. One guy like clasped his hands. But they look miserable.
Yeah.
And certainly not like a group of victors gloriously reveling in their court appearance. Like, we kicked
the
ass in
president
there.
has the authority of a king. It's kind of hard to, back that up.
He didn't look like a king. More like a jester. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. It's a Snowmageddon Tuesday edition with news, sports, and weather for your listening pleasure.
Don't you eat that yellow snow. Watch out where the Huskies go. And don't you eat that yellow snow.
0.7 WMDX.
Do you have questions about whether legal cannabis is right for you? I'm Alan Robinson, co-founder of Herbal Aspect. Cannabis is my business, my vocation, and my passion. Schedule an in-person or virtual cannabis consultation with me. A $50 value at no cost, just for Devil Radio listeners. Receive personalized advice, benefit from my undivided attention, and I'll guide you through helping you make an informed choice among Herbal Aspect's extensive selection. And get 10% off your first purchase when you use the code Devil Radio at herbalaspect.com.
Our pets are like family to us. That's why Dr. Mike Cohn and his trusty assistant, Daisy the dog, of Veterinary Clinic are here with over 42 years of experience. Ensure your pet's health with proper rabies vaccinations, reliable heartworm protection, and proper yearly checkups. Call 608-255-1239. That's 608-255-1239. Veterinary Clinic and Medicine. Open from 7:30 to 2 Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 on Saturdays. For a lifetime of wagging tails and joyful meows, visit Veterinary.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we're back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, sports, news, and weather. That's how we roll. You can join 844-967-2789. I know it's a lot of numbers, but if you want a super cool app, check out the Civic Media app. Get it at your favorite app store. You can follow take the Devils with you everywhere you go. Hit a button to call, hit a button to text. Again, the Civic Media app.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow night. Crute doing it live from the GOP debate site in Des Moines, Iowa. I'll be at the Drake University. Dom, I'll try to bring you as much on-the-ground coverage as time permits. It depends on how the roads are in the morning. And you never can tell, man. Might have to drive through Illinois, going sort of that way, right?
I mean, you know.
Road
when in
trip's a road
Rome.
trip. So, anyways, eventually I'll be on the air in Des Moines. And more importantly, Dom, I think attendance on the Thursday show, because that's when I'm going to bring you back all the insights from the Marriott lobby bar and what happens late night and what sort of stories I could gin up from those drunken Republicans in the lobby that night. I mean, really, that might be better, Dom. I think it might be. And then Monday, I've cajoled, connived, arm twisted. I think I've convinced you. We're going to Dubuque, baby, for the caucus
right.
Monday night.
Fine.
A special event broadcast. Dom Crute, third presidential caucus cycle in Iowa, Dom. Third time we've gone.
It's hard to believe we've been doing it that long.
Well, especially you.
I'm barely cynical at all.
And you can always be part of this program. 844-967-2789. If you believe Dom's not cynical, I got a bridge I'd like to sell you in Des Moines. So let's get to the important news of the day, Dom. The former president, and the order Crute learned about it, the former president coming out of the courthouse. And this is what he said, and I had not yet heard the in the courthouse testimony, which I've now done, and we're going to share with you soon. But here's what Trump said, post-appearance. And what he said was sort of boisterous. But I got to tell you, I did not find him to look very confident today in his court appearance. And when he's standing there next to legal counsel, I mean, that looked like a loser standing there. That did not look like a radiant, puffed up Trump that I'm used to seeing, out there strutting. He wasn't strutting post.
No Trump rooster action, kind of a slumpy,
not to my perception.
Downtrodden.
It looked like after Melania made him eat some broccoli. He had that sort of look on his face. Let's play it for the people. Maybe you can hear it in his tone. Although, he's always got the tone. Cut one, former President Donald Trump.
We had I thought, very momentous day in terms of what was learned and what they've conceded. They conceded two major points that were they were right in doing it. I don't think they had much of a choice, but they're very, very big, very powerful points. And I think we're doing very well.
Yeah, they're very big and powerful. I can't articulate them. I don't know exactly what they were or how to say it, but trust me, it was big, and it's victorious for me.
I listened to the oral testimony, Dom. After I heard Trump say that, I'm like, man, I'm going to listen for these two really good points his team made. And I can tell you with all honesty, and maybe it's just, I lacked a little attention span, but I can't tell you any good points made by sour counsel on behalf of Trump. I didn't hear any good ones, but maybe Crute's just a layman. Let's hear more from Trump. He's really glorious today.
Well, he's the one that's been in court all the time. He's very experienced at this.
Trump cut two.
I think it's very unfair when a political opponent, is prosecuted by the DOJ, by Biden's DOJ. So they're losing in every poll. They're losing in almost every demographic. Numbers came out today that are really very mind-boggling if you happen to be Joe Biden. And I think they feel this is the way they're going to try and win. And that's not the way it goes. That'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy.
That's the real threat. It's not the coup.
Oh,
it's not the violent mob that I directed and incited.
Oh, not that at all.
The real threat is the threat that I will be prosecuted because I'm the Republican front runner. More from Trump.
But there's going to be, this sounds, as Trump does, very
ominous.
Yeah, man.
Threatening
really
in tone.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
You think that was bad, man? You should hear what he says next when he continues to make the lie, the big lie, to tell the big lie, fraud, massive fraud. Play it for the people. If you would, please, cut 3.
The press doesn't like reporting it, but we found tremendous voter fraud, determinative voter fraud. But we worked on that. That's what I was doing. And they were talking about after. Well, nothing has to do with after I left. It was during the time. And that was what they really focused on today during the appeal. And they concede that, and everybody concedes that. And if it's during the time, you have absolute immunity.
I don't think they conceded any of those points.
No, I don't think so either. And again, determinative massive voter fraud. Where? By whom?
I left my homework in my locker. I'll have to get it for you later, Mr. Marty.
It's just, of course, he continues to tell the big lie.
Well, and he continues to, cast aspirationally the fact that the Georgia case will be dropped because he's making claims of immunity there as well. While there's time, let's play one more from Trump. Post-hearing today, cut 4.
You had a very big event yesterday, as you saw in Georgia, where the district attorney is totally compromised. The case has to be dropped. They went after, I guess, 18 or 20 people. They wanted to go after a lot of other people. They wanted to go after senators. She was out of her mind. Now it turns out that that case is totally compromised. In fact, they say she's in far more criminal liability than any of the people she's looking at. So I think that when you look at what happened, where they pay a lawyer with absolutely no experience $700,000 who happens to be her lover or her boyfriend, and then they go on trips and vacations together, very expensive vacations together. And the reason they paid him so much because he was after me, because this way they can afford to pay him a lot more. It probably passes certain tests. And that's a very sad thing that happened in Georgia. And I would imagine that case is going to be dropped.
I would not think the case will be dropped. And above and beyond that, there might be a fresh defamation suit coming out of the statements just made by the former president, because he doesn't quote any sources, but he makes some pretty serious allegations.
There's a test. There's a Trump test. If you go after Trump, they'll pay you more. That's how it works. Just a Trump test. Very big news. And forgive me if I'm I'm not a lawyer on these things, but that's the thing about, prosecutions. You can get another prosecutor. The facts still remain the facts. The circumstances are still the circumstances. The RICO case would go forward with or without Bonnie Willis.
Devil's advocates, we'd go forward with or without Dom, but we like it when he's here. He's not going on the road to Des Moines with me, but I'm taking him to Dubuque. Is it heaven? No, it's Iowa.
It's Dubuque.
In the middle of a snowstorm, in the middle of winter. I was thinking to myself, why am I not driving down tonight? And I said, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come back, more Devil's Advocates. We'll get you home safe. Riding the storm out.
Out on the lakes. Thanks for listening. This is Man Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Many communities have declared snow emergencies and parking bans during today's snowstorm. That's so snowplow drivers have enough room to do their jobs. In some places, vehicles could be towed at the owner's expense. The heaviest snow is falling in the southeastern two-thirds of the state. Republicans say they'll shut down the federal government if they don't get a deal to shut down the southern border. Congressman Ryan Steil on WISN TV's Up Front.
We're fighting about whether or not we should be mopping up the mess on the floor. I say turn the spigot off, and you turn the spigot off by actually ending the illegal immigration in the United States and securing the border.
Democrats note that lawmakers have passed on several opportunities to update immigration laws, but haven't. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. People in Fitchburg were without power last night after a semi-truck crashed into a power pole. Nobody was hurt in the crash. It happened just after 1 this morning on Seminole Highway. Almost everyone had their power restored by 7:30. Police are still asking people to avoid driving on Seminole Highway for a bit while crews work to remove the semi. Madison schools are out today thanks to the snowstorm, and it could be the beginning of the Madison School District's new snow day policy. Usually, if there's too many snow days during the year, extra days need to be added to the end of the semester. This year, after the third snow day of the year, elementary school kids will be sent home with worksheets to learn from home, while older kids will complete assignments without a teacher online. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
Tons of glass artists share the same passion for eye-catching art as Ignite Glass and Gifts, so we're showcasing their work alongside our talented local artists and our in-house Ignite artists. The latest techniques, the hottest colors, and mind-blowing designs are here for you to enjoy. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape, Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and O'Dana Road, plus IgniteGlassandGifts.com. Do your eyes a favor and see this stuff.
Bucks are in a slump. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Milwaukee Bucks are near the top of the Eastern Conference, but last night they suffered their second loss in a row at home. Utah Jazz with a 132-116 win. Milwaukee's now lost 4 of their last 5 games. Head coach Adrian Griffin.
You know, sometimes as a coach you can come in and, you can go bonkers, but I also believe you got to, show them the areas that we got to improve on. At halftime, I showed probably more clips than I usually show, areas where we can respond.
The Bucks host the Celtics Thursday. They're 3.5 games behind Boston for the top spot in the conference. NFL, it's the Cowboys and the Packers in the wild card playoffs Sunday at 3:30. Matt LaFleur.
We obviously know we have a great challenge in front of us going down to Dallas against a team that they're 8-0 at home this year. They seem to be playing their best ball at home.
That's Matt LaFleur. For sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Winter storm warnings continue. Snow showers and windy. Gusts at times 30 to 40 miles an hour with areas of blowing snow. 1 to 3 inches likely this evening with snow tapering overnight. It looks mostly cloudy for tomorrow. High temperatures in the low 30s. Right now it's 31.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service. Delivering for America.
You're not sure what's better, a win at Camp Randall Stadium or just hanging out at the farmer's market. This is Mad Radio 92.
The Devil's Advocates know how to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Snowmageddon Tuesday. If you're in the great state of Wisconsin, we're getting snow. It's snowing out there. Not as much snow as anticipated, though. They closed the schools down yesterday before a single flake had even fallen down.
No snow days, man. They got to burn those things up. I don't think you get to keep them, man. It'll roll over to the next year.
It's time for the kids to be done with school. We got no more than 3 inches today. And I haven't driven out in the rural parts. Maybe it's blowing and whatever, but I got to think, the weatherman got this one wrong. And I was watching the MSNBC, watching Trump come out of court today, a court hearing he didn't have to attend, but he wanted to, so he could make a political statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you believe Trump, this was a glorious day for the Trump team. But as I read the headlines, and I later did listen to the oral arguments, and we'll share some with you, judges skeptical that Trump is immune from January 6th prosecution. That's not at all how he tells it, Dom. No. So let's jump back in. This is
the same guy who said there's determinative voter fraud.
He did make that claim.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
At least they left the federal courtroom, and I believe they went into like a nice hotel. I'm not sure if it was the Four Seasons, landscaping or otherwise. More of Donald Trump, post-hearing, immunity hearing. He's entitled to be immune as the president, so he claims, as did his lawyers as well. Cut 5.
We're entitled as a president to immunity. If you didn't have immunity, as an example, Joe Biden with the prosecutor, we're not going to give you $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that's after the company or his son or whoever it is they're after. But he wanted that prosecutor gone, and he's on tape saying it. Or you could say the horrible job he's done at the border where our country is being destroyed, or the horrible situation that took place. The lowest moment, I think, in the history of our country was Afghanistan, the way we withdrew. Not that we withdrew, but the way we withdrew. With shame, we surrendered. People killed, 13 great soldiers killed, many unbelievably, horrifically hurt, wounded, hurt. And hundreds of people died on both sides. Hundreds of people died. He could be prosecuted for that. So you can't have a president without immunity. You have to have, as a president, you have to be able to do your job.
And as part of that job, Mr. Trump overturning a free and fair and open election? Is that part of the job?
Assassination, by assassination, if necessary, his attorneys made pleadings today, Dom.
I know.
He would be immune from that. That's what they
planned.
planned.
Unbelievable. I mean,
one more.
That's the whole point, though. If Trump doesn't quite grasp it, if what he is saying, what Donald Trump and his attorneys are arguing today were to be the case, then Biden could assassinate Trump legally and have nothing. There'd be no recourse against Joe Biden. Is that what he's really saying?
True. According to the legal pleadings, now Biden might be impeached.
But he's got a he's got a Democratic Senate. And, if the boss just whacks a dude, I think a lot of those folks are going to fall in line. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they could be next.
Man. You want to be next?
Be next.
Exactly. This is asinine. The fact that we even have to have these discussions.
You know what's really sad, Dom? According to Donald Trump, the fact that Donald Trump is not the president. Cut 6, please.
Very sad when something like that happens. You wouldn't have inflation, but much more importantly, you wouldn't have had the Ukraine situation with Russia. You wouldn't have had the attack on Israel. You'd have a much different economy right now. You'd have a great economy, and we would be respected all over the world the way we were just 3 years ago.
The America First candidate said recently that he hopes the economy crashes before the election. So, give him a benefit, which, of course,
he doesn't want to be
acknowledgement that if it was going to crash, that it's, better than crashed. You know what I mean? The guy's he's a rambling, sad old man.
Well, in his defense, Dom, he said he didn't want to be Herbert Hoover. 844-967-2789. Haven't even gotten inside the courtroom yet. We've got that sound as well. We'll bring you that soon. But let's go to our fair audience. Some have been patient, like Dick from Madison. Welcome, Dick. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, aren't you being a little hard on him? The one thing I have liked is this revisionist history lessons. Like, the one the other day about Lincoln, and then
should negotiated away the Civil War.
And I'm sure that Kennedy screwed up the missile crisis. They should have given up all their nuclear weapons after it was over. He would have had it that way, and on and on and on it goes. And then the COVID updates when he was president were great. I was down with all this historical stuff. It's kind of fun, except when he said yesterday, I hope the stock market crashes within the next 12 months. I mean, he's asking for the whole country to sacrifice for his game.
Yes, yes, it is. As Biden said, this is about Donald Trump. It's not about the country, Dick. It's about Trump. He doesn't know how to make it about anything else. It's not even in him to try.
No, but the reality is he compares very favorably with Herbert Hoover. His job numbers, everything. He does. Just all you got to do is look it up. But, I mean, I'm sure that every president in his mind has screwed something up that he would have done far better.
Oh, of course.
And it's
No
kind
doubt.
of fun to watch this.
Oh, we all like Monday morning quarterbacking, don't we, Dick? 844-967-2789. Want to sneak a few more in while there's time. John from Boaz. Welcome, John. What do you got for us?
Hello, John.
Hi, guys. This is the greatest radio show ever. And coming out of Madison and Waukesha, boy, that's right, my hometown.
Excellent.
Well, anyway,
that fact
gentlemen,
checks absolutely true.
because you guys are on top of your game right now. I should tell you this, but what I don't like the rookie cops. Did you hear what the guy did yesterday? Some rookie cop chased a teenage kid, a high-speed chase, and then he killed him.
Yeah, I
and
heard that,
then he
John.
tried to help the poor guy out. Do you hear that?
Well, I'm not sure what I had heard is the other night there was a high-speed chase and they had used tire, the tire instruments to puncture the tires, and 3 people died in a accident, and it wasn't clear what the motive for a high-speed chase would be. You know, they pulled someone over, guy didn't stay, he drove away, and they chased him, they blew up his tires, and 3 died in the car. It has led to a change in policy here locally. I believe it was Monona Police. I don't want to be wrong about that, but I believe it was Monona Police. Maybe Nate can do some Googling for me so I'm not always wrong out here on a high wire doing live radio. 844-967-2789. Yes, sir.
It was, in fact, Monona.
I'm usually right, but not always. I got that math on the ivermectin incredibly wrong the other day. Like Dom size wrong. Mark from the Sack, welcome back. What do you got for us, Mark?
Hey, Mark.
Thanks. Well, whenever Afghanistan comes up, I shifting gears a little bit. I go back and I pulled up the agreement, the surrender agreement that Trump signed with the Taliban.
Yes.
Engineered by Mike Pompeo. Is that the 5,000 prisoners, the terrorists that we released in March of 2020.
That Trump released, the Trump administration released as part of that deal.
Trump released part of that deal. That the sanctions were removed in August of 2020, and that we were supposed to be completely out of Afghanistan by May of 2020. That the agreement was supposed to be that to have the sanctions removed, but we were supposed to be out within 12 months, I guess, of the initiation of that agreement. So we were supposed to be supposed to be out in May of 2021, and Joe Biden actually delayed it until August. And yes, it's unfortunate those first service men were killed in Afghanistan, but that's the kind of thing that happens. And if more people would have gotten out, if Trump would have immediately, upon initiation of that agreement, started bringing people, our allies, out of Afghanistan, he could have brought that nearly an entire year earlier.
Yeah, you could have prepped. You could have done a wind down, Mark, and you left a crap sandwich for the next administration. And I would surmise, I would bet that was purposeful.
And they left so much of the armaments behind. They didn't take our gear back. They just left them in the desert. 844-967-2789. And of course, blamed it on Biden. John from Milwaukee. Welcome, John. What do you got for us?
Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
Good, man.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say, hey, I applaud you guys because you all are doing a good job of this. But I just want to say one thing. Trump is not running for president. He doesn't know how to be presidential. What Trump is running for is to save his ass. That's it.
Absolutely, John. It's a get out of jail free card. It's a self-pardon if he can do so, right? That and everybody else. And...
Right. And one other thing, Nikki Haley and DeSantis, they shouldn't even be in the race because they're saying if they become president, they are going to pardon Donald Trump. Nikki Haley said, how would it be to put an 87-year-old ex-president in jail? Well, I tell you what then, go to these prisons, and if you can let him out, let all these other prisoners out that only have one felony. Donald Trump has 90-something. That's ludicrous.
John, if in some way Nikki Haley survives shocks the world in Iowa, wins New Hampshire, and somehow pulls an inside straight and wins the nomination. Are you concerned if it's Nikki Haley or anyone other than Donald Trump against Joe Biden?
I'd rather have somebody else run against Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden. I'm voting for Joe Biden, but I don't want somebody on the Republican side that gets in there and pardons Donald Trump. If that happens, this is no longer America. How is he above the law?
I don't know.
understand it.
Same thing happened to Nixon, though, right, John? They pardoned Nixon. Ford pardoned Nixon.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't say I applaud that or anything, but this Trump thing is too deep, man. They cannot let this go because the next nut that comes behind Trump, he's going to be worse. So you have to set an example with Donald Trump. No, man, you're not above the law. You're going to jail. You don't have a get out of jail free card. And Nikki Haley, she shouldn't even run for president. Anybody that says they're going to pardon Donald Trump, they're just as crooked as Donald Trump.
John, you make excellent points. Be safe out there. Nikki Haley, my opinion, is running perhaps to be the vice presidential candidate under Donald Trump. And you can say, well, Nikki never worked for Trump again. She was the UN ambassador under Donald Trump, was she not? So she's got no such character qualms working with Trump. So, I mean, she's not going to beat him. Right now, Trump, through the strength he garnered of the 91 criminal indictments, that somehow makes him more appealing to his party, Dom.
To the Law and Order Party, yeah.
To the Law and Order Party. I mean, hell, all of his political rivals, they came out and defended him against these prosecutions. And he's going to be convicted, probably on multiple charges in multiple jurisdictions. And they're married to the guy now.
Well, they're married to him until they're not. The Nixon pardon. Couple of thoughts on that. Number one, if a president has absolute immunity, as Donald Trump would suggest, and his attorney,
why does he need a pardon?
Why would you have to pardon Nixon? And number two, the fact that Nixon was pardoned and how all that went down, I think in some way lays down the foundation for what we're dealing with right now. If you don't discourage the behavior, you actually encourage it. Doing nothing encourages it. And John was right. The next one that comes in, the next one that comes in, if you have that mindset, if you're that fascist, white Christian nationalist mindset, and you want to impose, your religious beliefs and your fascism on the country, well, hell, Donald Trump's a great example to follow. Just do that and more and more and more.
Donald Trump's legal team made the pleading today that a president could assassinate their political rival and they would be immune. What a deal. Come back. More Devil's Advocates will bring you sound from inside the immunity hearing.
Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwy.com. That's Crute at darnwy.com.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we're back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always be a part. Let us know your thoughts. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, shout out to whoever's listening right now in Des Moines, Iowa. I'll be in your fair town tomorrow night. Big GOP debate, Drake University. I'm credentialed.
I mean, big. I don't know.
Feeling
You
good
got
about that.
Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, 2 and 3. You know, Trump's not going to be there. I don't know.
Trump's going to be in Des Moines tomorrow.
He's not going to be. Yeah, he's not going to be on the debate, man.
I might do a doubleheader
really,
myself, Dom.
Don't you want to know? I mean, I literally want to know how would Donald Trump react on stage with those rivals? I mean, the fact that he's not showing up, gives them a break because they don't have to go after him, right? And he's not asked any tough questions. I mean, the whole thing is just beyond me. I don't know why Republicans think this is a great idea. And another thought I have then too, I saw some headlines that made me wonder.
It's a great idea.
Well, Donald Trump thinks it's a great idea.
He's up by
down with
50.
it.
Why would he give them any piece of his flesh? If they're looking for a pound of flesh, he's
not
got
up
a few
by
pounds
50,
to
man.
give.
I mean, look at New Hampshire.
He's
up by
up
50
by
New Hampshire.
50.
He's up by 50 in New Hampshire. Come on, man. Now, of course, the point being, yes. So you can skip them and not have any political consequence. Great. But it says a lot about that GOP party. It says a lot about the leadership of the Republican Party, certainly. But then here's my question. Should Joe Biden get on stage with the insurrectionist bastard and debate if he wins? Would Donald Trump even show up to those? And if he didn't, if either one of them, what is going on here, man?
Devil's Advocates radio show. We're doing it right now, man. It's a Snowmageddon Tuesday.
Come on.
Are you having a Joe Biden moment?
It's just a little, I mean, what is the point? What is the point?
Dom, the point is, this guy could shoot a man on Fifth Avenue and would have presidential immunity according to the pleadings of his legal counsel, or at least he would have, as an official ministerial act, Dom. Let's get to the courtroom, the hearing. They're opening Pandora's box. At least that's the claim of the D. John Sauer legal counsel. Sort of scratchy voice guy. You're going to hear him in a moment. Play cut 8.
To authorize the prosecution of a president for his official acts would open a Pandora's box from which this nation may never recover. Could George W. Bush be prosecuted for obstruction of an official proceeding for allegedly giving false information to Congress to induce the nation to go to war in Iraq under false pretenses? Could President Obama be potentially charged with murder for allegedly authorizing drone strikes targeting U.S. citizens located abroad? Could President...
So can I explore sort of the implications of what you're arguing?
And then she explores more from the hearing. Cut number 9, please, Nate.
I understand your position to be that a president is immune from criminal prosecution for any official act that he takes as president, even if that action is taken for an unlawful or unconstitutional purpose. Is that correct?
With an important exception, which is that if the president is impeached and convicted by the United States Senate in a, proceeding that reflects, widespread political consensus, that would authorize the prosecution under the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause. Okay. So yes, with that exception.
So it seems to me that there are a lot of things that might not go through that process because it's quite a cumbersome process that requires the action of a whole branch of government that has a lot of different people involved. And so in your view, could a president sell pardons or sell military secrets? Those are official acts, right? It's an official act to grant a pardon. It's an official act to communicate with a foreign government. And such a president would not be subject to criminal prosecution?
That's the question posed. The answer continued to hinge around the impeachment. This seems to be the pathway because one of their claims, one of the Trump legal team claims, is double jeopardy. He's already been tried for in the Senate. There's been a trial and an acquittal.
Is by its very nature a political exercise. They can't.
But understand,
come on.
The legal claims being made by D. John Sauer is the only way a president can be prosecuted is after a successful conviction at impeachment. That is the only way. That opens the door. That is the legal claim he's making. That's the only exception to this absolute immunity claim. But the judge kind of catches him and says, well, that means you can prosecute a president. Let's see if we can catch him in the act. Selling of the pardons, cut 10.
The sale of pardons example is an excellent example because there were allegations about a sale of a pardon, essentially, when it came to President Clinton's pardon of Mark Rich. And the U.S. DOJ carefully, and for the very reasons we've emphasized in our brief, decided not to prosecute President Clinton with that because it raised concerns about whether or not a president can be prosecuted for his official acts. There's actually an op-ed in the National Review from Andrew
But your
McCarthy.
position is that he can't be prosecuted for that unless he's impeached.
And that was, as long as it's an official act. I mean, certain cases, purely private conduct under Clinton against Jones, he'd be subject to prosecution for that so long as he's not in office. But as long as it's official.
So
an official act. I mean, again, very, very specific, theories here. One, of course, that it has to go through the impeachment process, and two, of course, that this is an official act.
So she hits him right between the eyes. What about SEAL Team 6 taking out a political opponent? Cut 11, please.
Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if he weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is
no. My answer is qualified yes.
No, it's a qualified no.
But only if there was an impeachment and conviction first. That's the argument.
Yeah, only
and
if
then,
you
of
get
course,
through
the
political process. Yes, which is asinine.
Well, of course it's asinine. And of course he knows that Trump went through 2 impeachments. And I think it was, 57 senators the second time around, but didn't have the prerequisite supermajority or whatever it was. So he was not convicted. But this opens up Pandora's box for the legal pleadings because effectively he's conceded the fact that, yes, the president may be prosecuted. He's just setting a pre-qualifier of a conviction and impeachment that the Constitution doesn't necessarily set. He thinks he's getting himself off, but I don't think it's going to work out for old man Trump. More Devil's Advocates. It'll be a happier happy hour.
Except maybe Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I've signed my share of commercial real estate leases. In Madison, I highly recommend Jeff Jansen from Altus Commercial Real Estate. Jeff guided me to my first radio station location on the west side. He helped us move to University Ave, and eventually Jeff set up the lease on the Civic Media World headquarters. No one works harder to provide options in commercial leasing. Call Jeff Jansen and his team at Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101.
You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. New details in what led to the hospitalization of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on New Year's Day. The Pentagon says a urinary tract infection from a prior procedure in December to treat prostate cancer led him to the ICU. The Pentagon facing criticism for not disclosing Austin was hospitalized for days, leading to a review of notification protocols. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby on when the White House was notified.
He was not informed until this morning that the root cause of that hospitalization was prostate cancer.
Chaos erupting in Ecuador today, including gunmen taking over a public TV station and live broadcasts. Authorities say explosive devices were also found in buildings and vehicles and say multiple terror groups took part in the attacks. The Securities and Exchange Commission says the SEC's social media account on X was compromised. The SEC says a post claiming the SEC approved the listing and trading of Bitcoin-traded products is false and fake. This is ABC News.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Wet, heavy snow will keep falling in much of southern and eastern Wisconsin until the early morning hours. Civic Media meteorologist Brittany Merlot tells Jane Matinair that 40-mile-an-hour winds will keep driving hazardous the whole time.
When you get underneath one of those snow bands, you'll see some snow accumulating a lot quicker out there, making it harder for the plows to keep up with. But they've been doing an awesome job so far. I've been checking cameras across the state. Hats off to you guys.
Wet, heavy snow is causing some power outages, too. New technology developed in Wisconsin could help doctors detect developmental disorders before a baby is born. The University of Wisconsin in Madison says it's currently focusing on autism, ADHD, and other disorders that aren't usually diagnosed until later. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. A snow emergency has been declared for the city of Madison. That means that alternate side parking rules will be in effect throughout the entire city this evening and tomorrow evening. Make sure to park on the even-numbered side of the road tonight to give snowplows enough room to clear the roads. You can also park in any city-owned parking garage for free overnight tonight and tomorrow between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. The nonprofit Madison Reading Project is teaming up with the Overture Center for a book drive. The drive starts today and will go until Saturday the 20th to coincide with the production of the classic book, The Rainbow Fish. Donated books will go to families in need throughout the community. Overture officials say that they're excited for the opportunity to promote literacy and share the joy of reading with kids throughout Dane County. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and remodeling professionals in our industry. Are you honest and hardworking? Do you love to improve people's lives by improving their homes? Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Badgers move up in the top 25. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Wisconsin Badgers, after beating Nebraska over the weekend, moving up 6 spots to the number 15th ranked team in the nation. Marquette fell out of the top 10 after losing to Seton Hall. The Golden Eagles now ranked 11th. NBA, the Bucks with another loss at home, this time to the Utah Jazz, 132-116. Damian Lillard out due to personal reasons and starting to boo last night at Fiserv Forum. Giannis says he can't blame him.
I think we have great fans, but around the league, don't play hard, you don't give everything to the team. There's times that you might get booed. I'll boo myself. I was I heard the boo and I was like, boo. I was like, in my head, I was booing myself.
Charles Barkley on TNT.
They're going to have to find a way to get better defensively. This is what Adrian Griffith's got to come in and say, hey, guys, we're scoring enough points. But does he have the personality to challenge those guys? Because when you win games, you don't address things. They're awful defensively.
That's Charles Barkley. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Winter storm warnings continue. Snow showers and windy. Gusts at times 30 to 40 miles an hour with areas of blowing snow. 1 to 3 inches likely this evening with snow tapering overnight. It looks mostly cloudy for tomorrow. High temperatures in the low 30s. Right now it's 31.
America is kept safe because the Army National Guard responds, protects, and supports our nation when it needs them most. The Army National Guard responds to disasters such as wildfires and floods. They protect us with missile defense, cybersecurity, and civilian support teams for chemical, biological, and radiological hazards. Be there for your community and your country. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. Your home for the Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Weekday afternoons from... The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you're about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show Tuesday. Snowmageddon here in the great state of Wisconsin, at least. That's what the weatherman claimed last night. And not really fully come to fruition, Don. Just a heavy snow. A happier happy hour. Welcome to it.
Hey, Curdy, thank you. Yeah, it's January in Wisconsin. It will snow. Thankfully, not as bad as predicted, but folks, be careful out there.
How do you think they do on the plowing in Iowa, Dom?
Oh,
Tomorrow.
they're fine.
The For the Love of Democracy Tour 2024. It officially hits the road tomorrow morning, Dom. I'm heading to Des Moines, and I'm going there for the alternative to the Trump GOP presidential debate at the Drake University. And I might even go catch a doubleheader, Dom. Might even go, troll the Trump crowd at the town hall, the Foxy News town hall in Des Moines as well. But for surezies, I'm going to be trolling every Republican that comes into the Des Moines Marriott lobby downtown bar. I'm just telling you, we've learned lessons. We've been doing this. This is our third elective presidential cycle, third trip to Des Moines. And here's, pardon me, here's perhaps the good news, Tom. Maybe the last one, because the Democrats don't give a damn about Iowa anymore. So it doesn't matter to the Dems. So might be my last trip to Iowa.
Well, it might be the last election cycle. Depends on who wins the presidency. You know what I mean?
The immunity claims of the former president, they played out in a judicial hearing today in the D.C. circuit, my understanding, and 3 judges heard, and D. John Sauer was there for the appellate, right? Because it was Trump that appealed. He's the defendant. And he claims he's got presidential immunity.
Absolute immunity.
And in fact, his legal counsel went into court today and started making these pretty bold claims about just how broad the immunity of the president. And the only exception was the impeachment. And he talked about the impeachment clause. I took a couple of notes. The impeachment judgment clause, Article 2, Section 1, he kept referencing this D. John Sauer guy because that's Trump's legal claim. Double jeopardy, which doesn't make an ounce of sense. But if he's not convicted at impeachment, then he effectively is forever immune from prosecution. That's the legal argument they claim. And I would just point out how craven these current Republicans that they numerically acquitted this guy at the second.
Although a
impeachment
majority did vote for him to be convicted, it did not meet the random
all the Democrats-
standard in this political process that is impeachment.
So back to D. John Sauer and back to the oral arguments being made earlier today. And this is some bold stuff they're claiming. Absolute immunity.
We got to do cut 11 again. I think we need to start kind of refresh. It's a new hour. It's the happy hour. We ended on it. I want to hear it again. I want everyone to hear it. And this is what the former president's position is. And this is what a lot of the GOP apparently believe. And can you just imagine if the black president was saying this stuff, how these Republicans would react?
Well, and the questions are being asked by the 3-panel federal judiciary from the D.C. Circuit, but for the defendant Trump, D. John Sauer. And he's well, let's just let you judge. Hear it from your own point of view. Cut 11, please.
Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if you weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
so your answer is no.
My answer is qualified yes.
Qualified yes, Dom.
Wow.
Yes, with an asterisk.
Yeah,
with
what?
a prior impeachment conviction. Then, and only then, according to the legal pleadings of D. John Sauer, then and only then could Trump be prosecuted.
Oh, don't worry about it, Crute. If that were to happen, according to Trump's attorney, that he would have to be and speedily be convicted of impeachment in the Senate. That's quite a bold statement. What makes him think that would actually happen? Again, if you drop a dime on someone, if the boss is whacking the capos, you think they're all gonna oh yeah, let's convict? Because if they got whacked next before the conviction, there would be no recourse for the American people, or there'd be no justice, no opportunity for justice sought.
And sort of an out of sequence, but there's new reporting from Mediaite today. Roger Stone, and this is on audio tape. This is not just random reporting. So set aside the source and consider the fact it's on audio tape. Roger Stone, who's a very close, let's just call him ally, and he was down at the hotel, right, the command center while the January 6th was going on.
Mm-hmm.
He is caught on tape saying effectively, it's time to start killing people. And specifically, he named names. Congressman Eric Swalwell and Jerry Nadler. And both these guys were on the Trump impeachment panel. And it was his goal, or at least his stated purpose, to go and kill one of those two and set an example.
Send a message, yes.
Send a message. We'll get to that reporting, but let's go back to the D.C. courts, Tom. Let's go back inside the chambers. I don't hear this sort of legal wrangling up close and personal like I did today. Made a little special extra time for it. Snow day and all.
Yeah, right.
So what are we up to?
Cut
if
number
you can't hire
12.
SEAL Team 6 without, expeditiously being impeached, although I'm not convinced that this Republican-led Congress would even impeach the former president, even if he hired SEAL Team 6. But let's continue. Can he be prosecuted? He can be prosecuted. Played for the people.
Cut
12.
If a president is impeached and convicted by Congress, then he is subject to criminal prosecution, correct?
That would be a necessary set to prosecution.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, he's not completely and absolutely immune because under the procedure that you concede, he can be prosecuted if there's an impeachment and conviction by the Senate.
Very, very formidable structural check against the astonishingly radical action of prosecuting a former president with official acts.
Correct, but you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances.
Specifically, if they're impeached and convicted, I think that's the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause.
Do you see what she did there? She effectively got a very tortured concession.
Yes.
Yes, the president can be prosecuted. He just sets this pre-course. You know, you must convict and impeach. I'm not so sure the federal judiciary is going to agree with that, even the U.S. Supreme Court, because you know where they're running to next. But let's play a little bit more of this inside the circuit court sound for you, our fair audience. I feel privileged to bring this to the people today, Dom. Otherwise, a snowy, boring little day, but we got important stuff for you. Isn't that a concession? Cut 13.
And isn't that also a concession that a president can be criminally prosecuted for an official act? Because presidents can be impeached for official acts.
Under those unique circumstances.
Correct. But given that you're conceding that presidents can be criminally prosecuted under certain circumstances, doesn't that narrow the issues before us to can a president be impeached?
No.
Can a president be prosecuted without first being impeached and convicted? All of your other arguments seem to fall away. Your separation of powers arguments fall away. Your policy arguments fall away if you concede that a president can be criminally prosecuted under some circumstances.
I disagree with that. The Constitution in the Article 2, Section 1 vesting clause, as interpreted very clearly by Chief Justice Marshall and Marbury against Madison, says Article 3 courts lack jurisdiction to engage in examination of the president's official acts. That's been
you just
reaffirmed by
conceded that Article 3 courts can do so if he's been impeached and convicted.
Yeah, dude. Good luck. He says a lot of words, but she's not falling for it.
Well, he wants to keep coming back to this whole impeachment clause. And he keeps striking Article 2, Section 1. That's the only relevant, right? But they get to decide. He's just trying to direct them, cajole them, encourage them to see things his way. But ultimately, this panel, they get to decide. Dom, I did not find Dijon, what did I say his last name was? Dijon losing counsel.
Right.
I didn't find him persuasive. He is intelligent. He is smart. This is not the cheap lawyer. This is not Alina Habba. This isn't Jenna Ellis. Hell, this isn't even Rudy. This guy, he's intelligent. I mean, you can hear, he knows the law.
Well,
he's arguing one step below the Supreme Court at this point.
Yes, and that's fine. And I have seen some reporting. I don't have it in front of me. I'll try to find it over the break. That when he references this impeachment clause, that some of the constitutional lawyers, I believe it was on MSNBC, referenced that was specifically put in the Constitution to limit the powers of the Senate, not to give an executive branch president a get out of jail free card.
From a certain point of view, come back. It's a happy hour with you. 844-96-PARTY.
92.7 WMDX.
Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at DARNWI.com. That's Crute at DARNWI.com.
The fastest hour in radio, serving truth, justice, and equality with every slice. Outside the Pizza Box with Pizza Box Mike. Friday nights at 7 on the talk you can't ignore. Mad Radio 92.7 WM.
Do you have the time?
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
About nothing and everything all at once.
The Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the lines 844-967-2789. Trump in court today. It didn't have to be, but, got to make a campaign stop, make it political for him. Just a quick paragraph from the Washington Post on this hearing today. Judge Karen L. Anderson, the lone Republican appointee on the court, expressed some concern about opening the floodgates for politically motivated prosecutions of future president, which Trump's lawyers repeatedly warned would be the outcome if the case
Pandora's box.
But Henderson joined the two Democratic appointees on the panel in expressing doubts that about Trump's legal arguments. At one point, she said it was, quote, paradoxical to say that his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed allows him to violate criminal laws. Yeah, a bit paradoxical, I would say.
I didn't like philosophy. I didn't like Dr. Shurowitz. But that logic, that philosophy espoused by that conservative appointee, yes, that you cannot be immune from the laws that you have pledged to uphold. You put your hand on the Bible and swear to the Constitution, all that kind of stuff, right, Dom?
Yeah.
It seems like a conflicted argument to me.
Indeed, it is. And again, going back to the point that if Donald Trump's philosophy, if their attorneys today were correct, then Biden could have him whacked
today.
Come on,
presidential immunity.
Yeah. That's just so terrible.
It's very insightful, and I appreciate the fact that we're able to bring the audience inside the courtroom, the oral arguments. You don't get to hear this, and it wasn't very prevalent before, let's say, the pandemic, but this is the pleadings being made by the Trump legal team, and the pleadings being made effectively. The former president had absolute immunity. And because technically he was still the president, he can do any damn thing. And as long as they didn't convict him and impeach him, conviction and impeachment, then, it's get out of jail free because he's exempt from all other forms of prosecution, or at least that's the pleadings they made. And let's just say the judicial panel, a little skeptical. Here's a little bit more, couple more. These are longer. Please indulge us. I think you're smart people. You can play along. Cut 14, please.
Constitution makes a carefully balanced, explicit exception to that principle in the impeachment judgment clause. So the problem for the separation of powers, the Constitution does this in many other situations where it engages in a balancing. What the framers were most concerned about was not the notion that the president would never be prosecuted for things that outrage his political opponents. What they were concerned about was politically motivated prosecutions. But they didn't say the president can never be prosecuted. They set up the separation of powers, and they created a very narrow exception that would allow prosecution in those cases.
But once you concede that there's not this absolute immunity, that the judiciary can hear criminal prosecutions under any circumstances, you're saying there's one specific circumstance, then that means that there isn't this absolute immunity that you claim.
No, I think that D. John Sauer is D. John Sourpuss right about that. 844-967-2789. Dom, there is one more.
Let's do it.
Let's do them all. Folks, you wanted us on this wall, listening to the sound, breaking it down to the most important parts for you. Nate, thank you for your hard work. The argument, let's just say the Trump argument falls apart. Cut 15.
I'm not aware of any case or constitutional doctrine that would say the Constitution sets up a very strong principle and it creates a very narrow exception, and therefore the exception just makes the principle vanish. I just disagree.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm saying that you're coming before us and saying that there is this absolute immunity, that is grounded in the separation of powers, that the judiciary can never sit in judgment on what the president is doing. But you're conceding that that's not true because under some circumstances, the judiciary can do that. That's all I'm saying.
I think I repeat my answer, which is that there's a very strong principle in the separation of powers that prohibits Article 3 courts from sitting in judgment over a president's official acts. There's a very narrow exception for conviction after impeachment.
I understand.
And that's a
But
position.
it just seems to me that if once you concede that presidents can be prosecuted under some circumstances, your separation of powers argument falls away. And the issues before us are narrowed to, are you correct in your interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause? Does the impeachment judgment clause actually say what you say it says? That's all that's really we need to decide.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a glorious victory for the Trump legal team today.
And, now looking back, listening to that Trump sound earlier in the show, maybe that's why.
Let's play it for the people one more time so you understand why I didn't know whether or not maybe, because I heard Trump say it first. Nate, if you'd be so kind, play cut one again, Trump post-hearing.
We had a very momentous day in terms of what was learned and what they've conceded. They conceded two major points that were they were right in doing it. I don't think they had much of a choice, but they're very, very big, very powerful points. And I think we're doing very well.
Come on.
I would entertain anyone telling me what the very powerful points were made by B. John Sauer today, legal counsel for Trump. What did he succeed in convincing the court? I mean, she effectively, at the very end there, you heard the federal judiciary say, if, we've now, because of your pleadings, which would tie this all back to, this immunity is tied to a post-impeachment, but it all ties together. So if we believe your pleadings, it's all narrowed down to whether or not we believe you. And Tom, they don't. They're very skeptical.
They are.
So this is not going to be upheld, right?
No, this will not be upheld.
Week or two, we'll get a rapid response from the district court
next week, dude. I mean, I think it'll go quick. And one thing that's kind of lost in this is that the official act thing, and it was the George H.W. Bush appointed judge who kind of went down this path a little bit more than what we've heard in some of the sound, addressing administrative kind of acts versus official acts and breaking that down. And I'm just curious, even if you believe the premise of Trump's attorney, what were the official acts that Donald Trump was engaged in? What is the official act about? Pressuring state legislatures who have or state elected officials who have states have the rights to do their elections, pressuring them to change the vote.
In part, and I did listen to the testimony, when questioned, D. John Sauer said effectively, well, some of these meet that criterion. And she said, well, which ones? And then he goes through and he says, well, there's some Congress part and there's some other part. And then she said, well, if only some. He goes, no, they all meet the standard. So even in that regard, you could see that they were very skeptical of the arguments, the pleadings, because they knew what they were coming in to say, right? These are just your closing arguments. You've already presented your final paper before you get to court. And it's ludicrous to think that any man or woman, any president, effectively has the power to kill their political opponent or have them assassinated and then be scot-free? I mean, hell. Where do I sign up for that job? Dictator. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Plastic Pink Flamingo. This is Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Many communities have declared snow emergencies and parking bans for today's snowstorm. That's so snowplow drivers have enough room to do their jobs. In some places, vehicles could be towed at the owner's expense. The heaviest snow is falling in the southeastern two-thirds of the state. Democrats say Republicans shouldn't politicize migrant border crossings. Congressman Mark Pocan tells WISN-TV's Up Front that there have been plenty of chances in the past to solve the immigration problem.
That fixed much of the broken immigration law that right now is largely broken, and Congress has been idle on dealing with this now for a couple decades.
Some Republicans want to shut the government down this month if there's no deal. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggyhout. The American Red Cross is urgently asking for blood donations as the entire country experiences a blood shortage. Officials with the Red Cross say that donations have fallen to their lowest levels in 20 years. They say that they've had to limit the amount of type O blood they send to hospitals. They say that anyone who donates blood to the Red Cross this month will automatically be entered for a chance to win tickets to this year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas. People in Fitchburg were without power last night. It's good to be king. Truck crashed into a power pole. Nobody was hurt in the crash. It happened just after 1 this morning on Seminole Highway. Almost everyone had their power restored by about 7:30. Police are still asking people to avoid driving on Seminole Highway for a bit while crews work to remove the semi. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggyhout, WMDX News.
Our pets are like family to us. That's why Dr. Mike Cohn and his trusty assistant, Daisy the dog, of Veterinary Clinic are here with over 42 years of experience. Ensure your pet's health with proper rabies vaccinations, reliable heartworm protection, and proper yearly checkups. Call 608-255-1239. That's 608-255-1239. Veterinary Clinic and Medicine. Open from 7:30 to 2 Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 on Saturdays. For a lifetime of wagging tails and joyful meows, visit Veterinary Clinic and Medicine.
The Badgers move up in the top 25. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Wisconsin Badgers, after beating Nebraska over the weekend, moving up 6 spots to the number 15th ranked team in the nation. Marquette fell out of the top 10 after losing to Seton Hall. The Golden Eagles now ranked 11th. NBA, the Bucks with another loss at home, this time to the Utah Jazz, 132-116. Damian Lillard out due to personal reasons. Fans starting to boo last night at Fiserv Forum. Giannis says he can't blame him.
I think we have great fans, but around the league, you don't play hard, you don't give everything to the team. There's times that you might get booed. I'll boo myself. I heard the boo and I was like, boo. I was like, in my head, I was booing myself.
Charles Barkley on TNT.
They're going to have to find a way to get better defensively. This is where Agent Griffith's got to come in and say, hey, guys, we're scoring enough points. But does he have the personality to challenge those guys? Because when you win games, you don't address things. They're awful defensively.
That's Charles Barkley. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Winter storm warnings continue. Snow showers and windy. Gusts at times 30 to 40 miles an hour with areas of blowing snow. 1 to 3 inches likely this evening with snow tapering overnight. It looks mostly cloudy for tomorrow. High temperatures in the low 30s. Right now it's 31.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I've signed my share of commercial real estate leases. In Madison, I highly recommend Jeff Jansen from Altus Commercial Real Estate. Jeff guided me to my first radio station location on the west side. He helped us move to University Ave, and eventually Jeff set up the lease on the Civic Media World headquarters. No one works harder to provide options in commercial leasing. Call Jeff Jansen and his team at Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101.
You're listening to the Devil's Advocates. Then at 6, stay tuned for the Maggie Dawn Show on Mad Radio.
It's good to be king.
The Devil's Advocates. Radio for nasty women everywhere.
To be there in velvet. Yeah, to give them a smile.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Tuesday edition, a Snowmageddon happy hour. Dom, I'm just looking out the window. It's like a snow globe out there. But, maybe 3 inches.
I don't know. I feel a little disappointed. You know, I do have to travel extensively in the morning. Long drive, like 4.5 hours to Des Moines, Iowa. I hope you tune in. If I'm making the trip, and Dom, you better be a part as well. But if I'm making this damn trip,
I'll tune in, Crute.
You better tune in for a Wednesday edition and the late night bar time insights on the Thursday show. And then, Dom, you and I are both going to Dubuque, first in the nation preference. It's the Iowa caucuses. It'll be our third. And that'll be Monday, January 15th for the Love of Democracy Tour 2024. Thank you to Chad's Design Build. They're sponsoring all this travel, Dom.
Thank you, Chad.
It adds up.
Yeah, it does.
If you get the good internet, it adds up. But,
well, Iowa's cheaper than Vegas, though, baby.
Well, I got to tell you, the surge pricing going on right now in Des Moines, it is cheaper to get a room at the Bellagio than get a room at the Des Moines Downtown Marriott tomorrow night.
Fantastic.
For whatever that's worth. 844-967-2789. We'll go to the phones in just a minute. We've been talking about the immunity hearing, and Trump decided he was going to leave the campaign trail. You know, he's in a big lead in Iowa. DeSantis is back giving a half-hearted stay the course speech down in Florida. He's also off the campaign trail. Everybody else is campaigning. I bet you Nikki Haley's shaking some hands in a snowstorm today in Iowa. But from the Washington Post coverage of the earlier hearing today, D. John Sauer, the aforementioned counsel for Trump, insisted that for any crime connected to a president's official duties, the political process of impeachment and conviction by the Senate would have to occur before prosecution. He predicted that if the president was involved in murdering someone, you know, he'd be speedily impeached.
Why would you say that?
The hearing,
based on what?
Dom, the hearing, which included references dating back to George Washington's tenure, showed how the historic prosecution of Trump has raised difficult questions, largely avoided for more than 2 centuries, about the limits of presidential power and the consequences of presidential crimes. No president has been charged with a crime before, and both Trump and his attorneys warned that the case would open a Pandora's box. That was the pleading. That was the legal pleading. That's how we started today. For future presidents to be charged with all manner of crimes or serve in fear, Dom, of facing such charges when they leave the White House. Maybe if he did less criming, a little bit more here, actually. Dom, Trump has already vowed to hire a special prosecutor to go after Biden and his family. Trump said after the hearing, there'll be bedlam in this country, right? That was one of the things he said.
Terrible.
It will be bedlam in this country. He had to go to the hotel, Dom. He used to own that place. Not so much anymore.
There's a little bit more on here. I believe, let's see, James Pierce, he's the Justice Department attorney. He responded that Trump's singular actions had brought the country to this point. Quote, never before has there been allegations that a sitting president has, with private individuals and using the levers of power, sought to fundamentally subvert the democratic republic and the electoral system. He said Trump's case does not, it is a sea change of vindictive tit-for-tat prosecutions in the future. I think it reflects the fundamentally unprecedented nature of the criminal charges here. Trump was not required to attend the hearing, but chose to. As Pierce made the point, Trump quietly shook his head in disagreement. Otherwise, he appeared to listen impassively from the courtroom gallery as the judges challenged his attorney's contentions, and there was seemingly lots of challenging going on today. And again, to repeat, we must beat this point home. Donald Trump's legal position at the D.C. appellate court is that he could assassinate his political rivals and get away with it so long as he was not impeached first.
And Dominic, you understand the presidency has the unrestrained power of the pardon, right? That would be one of his official acts. And that was discussed today in this court hearing. You know, what if the president was selling pardons? I'm thinking that might be a real life circumstance. But anyways, Mediaite and this is supported by audio tape. Roger Stone spoke with Cop Pal about assassinating Eric Swalwell and Jerry Nadler. So maybe Trump wouldn't kill a guy, but would he pardon, maybe Roger Stone if he directed a political hit against a Democratic congressman who was prosecuting Trump through the impeachment process, that trigger, according to his legal counsel, a potential future criminal prosecution? Because if you don't have a successful impeachment, you can't have a prosecution. That was the legal argument they made. Weeks before the 2020 presidential election, infamous political operative Roger Stone sat across from his associate Sal Greco at a restaurant in Florida. At the time, Greco was a NYPD cop working security for Stone on the side. Their conversation at the Cafe Europa in Fort Lauderdale focused on two House Democrats for whom Stone harbors particular animosity, Jerry Nadler and Eric Swalwell. In audio, this is on a recorded tape, Dom. In audio of the conversation obtained exclusively by Mediaite, Stone made threatening comments about the two lawmakers. It's time to do it, Stone told Greco. Let's find Swalwell. It's time to do it. Then we'll see how brave the rest of them are. It's time to do it. It's either Nadler or Swalwell has to die before the election. They need to get the message. Let's go find Swalwell and get this over with. I'm just not putting up with this, and I can't say that word on the radio, blank, anymore. Now, a source familiar with the discussion told Mediaite they believe Stone's remarks were serious. It was definitely concerning that he was constantly planning violence with an NYPD officer and other militia groups. Both Nadler and Swalwell serve on the House Judiciary Committee. At the time of the Cafe Europa conversation, Nadler had announced the committee would be investigating then-President Donald Trump's decision to commute Stone's sentence after he was convicted of federal crimes in the special counsel Robert Mueller Russia probe. You're going to investigate my pardon? I'm going to have your ass killed. And my guy's still in the White House. He'll pardon me again. I mean, this is sort of troubling.
Roger Stone tweeted out today, all caps, like his boss. Exclusive left-wing Mediaite fails to produce or post audio of tape where they allege falsely that I plotted to assassinate political opponents because they don't exist or can't pass analysis for authenticity, and in parentheticals writes AI. Hashtag fake news. From Roger Stone.
Now, in July of 2020, Jerry Nadler had written on the Twitter, Dom, a jury found Roger Stone guilty. By commuting his sentence, President Trump has infected our judicial system with partisanship and cronyism and attacked the rule of law. At House Judiciary will conduct an aggressive investigation into this brazen corruption. The source told Mediaite of Stone. Stone had been at war with Nadler and Swalwell for years. He just hates them. He just wanted to get Trump back in office so these things would stop. It's almost like there's, some self-motive there. Stone was convicted of obstruction, witness tampering, and lying to Congress in the Mueller investigation. Prosecutors sought a 9-year prison sentence for the longtime operative, but Trump's Justice Department reportedly intervened to impose a less severe sentence. Stone's sentence was eventually commuted by Trump days before he reported to prison. I think he would have lost his mattress, Dom. 844-967-2789. Against my better judgment. Happy Snowmageddon, CJ. How you doing, man?
Hey, CJ, please stay on topic.
Well, as I listen to you guys, it amazes me how you're focused. Yes, I can see, that he's an opponent of our current president. And as our troops are being attacked all over the world, and this president and our secretary is hiding in the hospital.
There are hot spots around the world, CJ, but we're not currently under fire. Last hotspot I recall was Afghanistan, and we withdrew.
Okay, but let's
You've
stay on
reminded
topic
us
here,
umpteen
as I
times.
asked, and I would expect you to respect our wishes here, CJ. You just heard, if you've been listening to this show, and I know you do, and we thank you for that. You just heard Trump's attorneys present to the D.C. Appellate Court that Donald Trump should be immune from prosecution should he murder his political opponent. And I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that, because certainly if that a rule applies to a president, Biden owns or sits in the presidency now. Do you think if that were to be true, that Biden would have the opportunity, he could go murder Trump without any fear of prosecution? Do you think that's a logical statement, CJ?
I think this is his most difficult case. And no, I don't think any president should have absolute immunity. I don't care who it is. But the mere fact that, again, these charges, we can look all over all of the other 4 or the other 3 charges that are, are cases.
Well, it's 91 charges in 4 jurisdictions. I would throw out
bias in all 3 of those, Crute.
Well, here's what I would say, CJ.
Bias can be proven because we've got
I'll throw out the Alvin Bragg. I'll throw out the Stormy Daniels with you. And in the short run, Eileen Cannon, the Trump appointee, is making sure that West Palm Beach is not going to trial anytime soon. But Trump clearly had documents. But I'll even set aside the paperwork crimes. If you set aside the complete and utter presidential immunity argument, that means Donald Trump's got to go to trial in the Jack Smith, in the Chutkin, for the January 6th. And that's the only one I've ever cared about, CJ. How do you feel like this man defends himself against charges, maybe not insurrection, but the fact that he incited and wanted this to happen, and it was his officials, it was his administration, his lawyers directing this procedural coup that turned into a riot? What do you say to that, CJ?
Well, you know what? No, I don't agree with that at all, because you can prove who's Jack Smith's boss.
Well,
who's Merrick Garland's boss? Joe Biden.
Well, that's always the case.
By
for
that
any
logic,
Department of
that's
Justice,
the whole
CJ.
Bill Barr argument, dude. That's the whole. I mean, we've had special counselors. Who was John Durham's boss? You love the Durham report when the special counsel was a Trump appointee, dude.
Good point.
You can't have it both ways.
You never read the Durham report.
Well, who was
there
his
was,
boss,
there was
DJ?
no there,
Report,
dude.
Did you?
You
never read the Durham report, did you?
I read parts of it.
Never read the
CJ, I'm telling you, I read parts of it, just like I listened to like an hour of the testimony, but not every minute of the testimony, because there are certain limitations. It's called a clock and daylight, and I can only be so many places at so many times, and I'm going to Iowa in the morning, man.
Let's
It's more
answer
than you're
that
doing for the
question.
cause, CJ.
Crute, who was Durham's boss when he released that report?
Well, that'd be Merrick Garland.
Oh, okay. And who's Merrick
by
Garland's
extension, that would be Joe Biden's boss.
boss? Oh, okay. And who is prosecuting Hunter Biden right now? Is that the DOJ?
That would be a special counselor who was
okay.
an appointee of the Trump. That's Weiss, I believe, who is actually doing the
Okay, but
now
still under the
prosecution.
Hebrew,
There
now
was
under the DOJ, right? Under Biden.
under Biden. That's why he's getting a sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
And the fact that Trump took $5.5 million from the Chinese, that always gets ignored.
Just the Chinese. Plus, and that's what we know of? Come on, man.
But Hunter's laptop and Hillary's
hell.
emails and Benghazi and Afghanistan. And this guy's standing outside a courtroom today saying, I have absolute immunity. There was fraud in the 2020 election. Determinative. He's out there playing king today. And the only kings are the kings of radio. Dom Crute, come back.
Yeah,
with us.
baby.
Join us, 844-967-2789.
WMDX.
This is Chad Spade. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the hatred and misinformation that consumes our world, but I also know that we cannot build a house of justice and inclusion on a foundation of hatred and lies. We have to practice what we preach. At Chad's Design Build, we confront injustice the same way we confront a poorly built home, with love, compassion, intelligence, and persistence. We engage our community the way we engage our clients, with honesty and humility and the dogged determination that we can do better. Chad's Design Build. Remodeling done well with love.
Tune into The Empowered Caregiver with me, Liza Hellenbrand, every Wednesday evening at 7.
On Mad Radio, 92.7 WMDX.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street, the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It is our last segment of the day. So if you have something to say, you can join us on the lines right now at 844-967-2789. Stick around. The Maggie Dawn Show coming up next.
Dominic, I watched Trump today coming out of the courthouse. And, well, courtroom, went to a hotel, used to own, and gave a little speech fine. So glorious today. We made 2 good points. I don't know what they are, but I feel quite confident. And then, the other thing I devoted my attention to today, Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show. Because Aaron Rodgers was trash talking Jimmy Kimmel and said, Jimmy Kimmel, effectively saying to the effect that Jimmy Kimmel, is just hoping he's not on the pedophile list coming out in the Epstein case. And Jimmy Kimmel took some personal offense and, put out a tweet like, if I ever have to defend these points of view, these facts, let's call them, it'll be in a court of law, Aaron Rodgers.
You done messed up, A-Rod.
And so Jimmy Kimmel last night came out and did a little monologue, Dom, like 7.5 minutes. And we're not going to play the 7.5 minute monologue. We don't have that much time left in this show, but we got a little bit of it. Nate's done a little of the hard work. Nate, let's play a little of the Jimmy Kimmel monologue to start the show last night.
Aaron Rodgers is too arrogant to know how ignorant he is. They let him host Jeopardy for 2 weeks. Now he knows everything.
Let's keep going.
This hamster-brained man thinks he knows what the government is up to because he's a quarterback doing research on YouTube and listening to podcasts. I looked it up. This is actually a thing. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
One more.
Aaron got 2 A's on his report card. They were both in the word Aaron, okay?
A little bit more here from Kimmel's monologue last night and the reporting thereof. Aaron Rodgers has a very high opinion of himself because he had success on the football field. He believes himself to be an extraordinary being. He genuinely thinks because God gave him an ability to throw a ball, he's smarter than everyone else. The idea that his brain is just average is unfathomable to him. We learned during COVID, somehow he knows more about science than scientists. A guy who went to community college and then got to Cal on a football scholarship and didn't graduate. Someone who spent a minute studying the human body is an expert in the field of immunology. He put on a magic helmet, and that G made him a genius. Aaron, well, we talked about the fact Aaron got 2 A's on his report card, and they were both in the name Aaron. So anyways, Dom, I did the follow-up, and I watched Aaron Rodgers trash talking, F-bombing on the Pat McAfee show today. A very profane, and on the ESPN, they do allow, and they televise this. I was watching it on TV. Pat McAfee, former punter turned, talk jock, and Aaron Rodgers does these paid hits, and Aaron Rodgers effectively said this on the show, and ESPN apologized, and Pat McAfee said, well, he's just S-talking, and Jimmy Kimmel said, well, that's not S-talk. That's an accusation. So I watched Aaron Rodgers today. Oh, my God. I used to admire this guy. he went full anti-Fauci.
Oh,
He went
man.
full anti-Fauci. I mean, he's going after, and he sounded like Ron Johnson. And at one point, I'm pretty sure, MAGA was brought up, and he's like, oh, no, I'm not MAGA. I'm not very political, he says. But he's, just eviscerating Fauci, saying Fauci effectively had financial benefit to push the vaccines. And that's why they were pushing the vaccines. And, not that he's an immunologist. He made that point a couple times. And he just dug and dug and dug.
If you've been immunized, doesn't that make you an immunologist?
Maybe in his world. Not his finer moment, Dom. And 3 F-bombs, and he attacked the ESPN executive, and he didn't apologize. This guy have a manager or anyone that he takes counsel from? I mean, I know
You done messed up, Aaron.
I know I'm pretty undirectable, completely unemployable. I mean, you know that about me, and I know that about you, Dom. But do you think the man takes advice from anyone? He should.
I mean, if you know everything and you're on the radio, who do you need to take advice from? I mean, you're qualified to do absolutely everything in this world if you talk in front of a mic.
Pretty much.
It's
844-967-2789.
That's Mike Pence.
Jake from Eureka, California. How you doing, Jake?
Hey, Jake, welcome.
Hey, guys. Yeah, the Packers really dodged a bullet there with Aaron. They got rid of that ridiculous contract. They got a new quarterback, the youngest team in the league, and they're going to the playoffs. So, yeah, thank you very much for leading, Mr. Rogers.
And if I played my cards right, I will be in Vegas for the Super Bowl. Well, if the Packers are there, I would suck it up and eat 3 more nights in a hotel just to say I was there. Because you cannot afford to fly out the Monday after the Super Bowl. At least I cannot. You're stuck in Vegas for half the week. you can affordably get to Vegas,
man.
You just can't affordably get out of Vegas after the Super Bowl. Jake,
yeah, but you can get to Reno quick.
844-967-2789. Cam from Nina, welcome, sir. What do you got?
Hello, Cam.
Hey, so when Rogers was saying that stuff, I saw glimpses of it today as well, and I just think it's got to be the same thing as with Elon's, because Elon ended up being anti-left-wing in general when he got surrounded by the same people that were equally as upset that their profits were being impacted by COVID lockdowns, because remember, he couldn't get his gigafactory working during lockdown. So that's when he started trailing pretty hard into the right-leaning stuff. And the right is full of a lot of bootlickers and yes men. So of course he loves that, someone that's addicted to Twitter. So I mean, Aaron Rodgers too, I'm sure that he was impacted financially, and he was only pissed off about that and calling it horrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
We do know.
Yeah. We know. This isn't ESPN. We can't say those things on the FCC regulated airwaves. Appreciate your call, Cam.
A few of the texts, don't want to ignore the texters. Jeff texts in, I still think you guys pay CJ to call in with the inane comments. Here's a texter that says Clay sucks. Well, I'm not going to read that one on the radio. F this guy, I think they mean you, CJ. And then Wes from Middleton. 8 inches in Middleton, Crute. Yeah, maybe at your house, Wes. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Stick around. The Mankey Dawn Show is next. And then Busted Pencils, Educated Educators Talking Education, The Nightlight, Happy Snowmageddon. See you live from Des Moines, Iowa tomorrow on the road.